Park ranger a while back, and she told me they spend a lot of time thinking about things like forest fires, climate change, invasive species, the normal things, right? But the one thing she did not mention back then that's now getting a lot of their attention.
Yellowstone National Park faces hazards such as thermal explosions and earthquakes. The early morning silence above Yellowstone National Park was broken by a loud and resonant roar that appeared to rumble up from the Earth's very bones. The vibration traveled through deep pine forests, across steaming geothermal vents, and across frozen rivers still encrusted with winter ice. Visitors who had camped overnight awoke confused, believing they were hearing a distant thunderstorm. But the cloudless sky made it evident that this was something very different, radiating from well beneath their feet. Within minutes, plumes of dust rose above a distant area of the park, followed by an ominous column of steam curling into the cool mountain air. Rangers intervened immediately, ushering surprised tourists to designated safe zones, even as the ground rattled intermittently. Before we begin, please hit the like and subscribe buttons for future updates. It was neither an earthquake in the usual sense, nor the type of shallow seismic event commonly recorded in Yellowstone's caldera region. This was unusual, short, powerful, and accompanied by a hollow, concussive blast that sounded unsettlingly like a muffled detonation. Geologists stationed nearby quickly identified that the sound pattern and seismic signature indicated a rapid release of subsurface pressure. Something deep within the ground had split, sending a shockwave through the superheated rock and water strata that comprise the park's intricate geothermal system. For decades, Yellowstone has been a location of both beauty and danger, with boiling hot springs, fumaroles, and geysers serving as not just beautiful wonders, but also reminders that this terrain is perched atop one of the world's most formidable volcanic systems. Under the meadows and forests is a large magma chamber, a vast reservoir of molten rock that supplies the park's geothermal features. It is a system capable of causing cataclysmic eruptions, though they occur infrequently on human time spans. What happened in those early hours was not an eruption, but rather a subterranean explosion that has forced experts to reconsider the region's stability. Emergency teams moved with precision, knowing that in Yellowstone, every irregularity is taken very seriously. Roadblocks appeared along the main park routes, and by mid-morning, the order was issued to close the park completely. The shutdown was more than just a precaution. It was a direct response to the uncertainties surrounding the cause and magnitude of the underground bomb. If the event upset the balance of geothermal pressures, further explosions or rapid hydrothermal eruptions might occur unexpectedly. The closure was quick and absolute, with law officers sealing off all park entrances and flashing caution lights. The bomb location was located in a restricted area that is generally inaccessible to the public, situated in a wilderness zone where geothermal activity is active and unpredictable. The explosion had left a gaping vent, its edges glowing faintly from residual heat. Steam burst out in constant streams, conveying the pungent odor of sulfur. The surrounding trees were burned black, with their needles torn away as if by a giant blowtorch. The snowpack in the nearby vicinity had melted, revealing burnt earth, and the air shimmered with heat despite the season's frigid temperatures. The spectacle was bizarre and terrifying, revealing the raw strength that lay behind Yellowstone's gorgeous veneer. Seismologists monitoring the area detected a sharp increase in microquakes in the minutes preceding the explosion. These tremors, hardly detectable to humans, indicated a rapid buildup of pressure within a small subterranean area. The most logical explanation was a hydrothermal explosion, which occurs when superheated water trapped in rock is rapidly turned into steam and bursts through the surface. Such phenomena are known to occur in Yellowstone, but they are typically tiny in scale and frequently go unreported by the general public. This one, however, was unique, not only in terms of power, but also in the seismic footprint it left behind. Geologists emphasize that a hydrothermal explosion is not the same as a volcanic eruption, but the implications remain substantial. The abrupt release of subsurface pressure may disrupt geothermal routes, shifting heat and fluids in unforeseen ways. This can alter the behavior of geysers, destabilize the Earth in some areas, and even create new vents where none previously existed. The depth and energy of this explosion were particularly unsettling, indicating a disturbance in rock strata closer to the underlying magma system than is common for such events. As news of the closure spread beyond Wyoming, speculation increased. Social media channels were filled with stunning shots taken by visitors right before the park was evacuated, depicting towering steam columns with faint reddish lights evident at their bases. Amateur camera captured the muted boom, which was unlike any geyser eruption or thermal vent release. Though officials refused to confirm any link to volcanic activity, the sheer magnitude of the explosion made it impossible to disregard the potential gravity of what had happened. Yellowstone's closing under those conditions had significant consequences. This was not a seasonal maintenance closure or a preventative measure against seasonal flooding. The decision was based on geological uncertainty and the need to keep people as far away from the dangerous zone as feasible. The park is not only the crown gem of the American wilderness, but it also serves as a living laboratory for scientists researching the interaction of Earth systems. By entirely closing it off, authorities acknowledged that this was no ordinary geothermal incident. From an environmental standpoint, the blast's consequences went far beyond the immediate threat to human visitors. Yellowstone's geothermal system is inextricably linked to its biosphere. Many plant and animal species have adapted to thrive in and around thermal zones, relying on warmth and mineral-rich discharge to survive in otherwise severe alpine circumstances. A large-scale disturbance could damage these environments, altering water chemistry, destroying flora, and causing wildlife to move. Even little variations in geothermal patterns can have a long-term impact on the ecosystem, and the size of this event indicates that huge ecological shifts may be taking place beneath the surface. The geological implications were similarly sobering. Yellowstone's caldera is the relic of an ancient supereruption that changed the terrain hundreds of thousands of years before. Since then, the region has had numerous minor eruptions, steam bursts, and geyser cycles. However, every event is constantly monitored for patterns. Any indication that magma flow is reaching the level of surface activity is treated seriously. The explosion that precipitated the closure was not caused by magma, but it did indicate that pressures in the system were altering. If deep fissures formed during the blast, they might open up new paths for superheated fluids to flow upward, potentially increasing the frequency or intensity of thermal activity. Scientists started deploying specialized equipment to detect gas emissions, earth deformation, and thermal imaging near the bomb site. Even as they did so, the park remained strangely peaceful, with the exception of the hum of government cars and the occasional thump of a helicopter overhead. The shutdown turned the park into a massive exclusion zone, inaccessible even to most employees. The lack of human presence was both a precaution and a need. Any new occurrence may occur unexpectedly, and the terrain's unpredictability rendered rescue efforts in an active blast zone too dangerous to try. Visitors who were inside the park at the time of the occurrence described the disoriented sensation that followed the initial boom. Some people reported feeling the ground flex softly beneath their feet, like the deck of a ship amid high seas. Others reported hearing popping and hissing noises from nearby hot springs just after the explosion, as if the thermal features were responding to the shock wave. In other regions, the water in pools became murky within minutes, most likely due to the quick pressure change. Even geysers miles away erupted at irregular intervals, their normal rhythms altered by whatever had occurred deep beneath. The decision to close the park indefinitely demonstrated the challenge of appraising an event of this magnitude in real time. An underground explosion, unlike a wildfire or a landslide, does not leave a clear footprint to follow. Much of the activity is hidden beneath layers of rock, water, and steam. Determining the magnitude of the disturbance necessitates not just seismological data, but also direct observation of changes in geothermal features, which can take weeks or even months to piece together. In many respects, this conclusion was as much about what was unknown as what was known. The idea that such a big hydrothermal explosion might occur unexpectedly highlighted how volatile and little understood Yellowstone's subterranean ecology remains. Scientists can simulate prospective outcomes and identify certain precursors, but the system's sheer complexity prevents easy prediction. This is a place where superheated water can remain stable for decades before bursting in an instant, where magma can move quietly beneath layers of rock, and where the balance between stability and chaos is continually altering. The closure also held cultural and symbolic significance. Yellowstone is an American landmark, attracting millions of people from all around the world every year. It signifies not only natural beauty, but also the country's long history, with wild, untamed landscapes. Closing it under the prospect of geological instability acknowledges the limits of human control over nature. It is a sobering realization that, despite decades of research and contemporary technology, the Earth retains the ability to surprise and unsettle in ways that require respect and prudence. Local communities felt the impact right away. Businesses that rely on park tourism experienced an unexpected drop in visitors, leaving those living near the park with an unpleasant question. What would happen if such a blast occurred without warning? Officials argued that the Yellowstone blast presented little threat outside the park's limits, but the psychological shock was apparent. The simple fact that the ground beneath America's most famous national park had suddenly erupted caused concern throughout the country. The shutdown was more than just a safety precaution. It was a striking reminder that the American West was constructed by massive geological forces that are still very much alive. For days, a white column of steam curled into the sky like a phantom pennant, visible from afar. It marked the vent where Yellowstone unleashed its wrath, a terrifying reminder that the system beneath was still active. The blast sound had long faded, but the image lingered, a silent reminder that Yellowstone is not a frozen relic, but a restless giant capable of awakening unexpectedly. Reconnaissance aircraft found burnt earth, fallen ground, and cracked rock that extended further than previously imagined. Thermal cameras detected large heat zones extending from the crater, indicating that the explosion was not a single rupture, but a cascade discharge from subsurface faults. Rock shards scattered the slopes, leaving scars from contact with superheated steam. In some spots, the blast dug trenches through the snow and earth, leaving chaotic patterns on the terrain. Scientists wearing protective gear moved into the perimeter. They collected mineralized mud, hardened debris, and samples from steaming rivulets. Gas detectors detected increases in carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, which are normal in geothermal systems but harmful at high concentrations. Every measurement was significant because the major question loomed. Had the blast touched deeper reservoirs, or even hinted at changes in the magma chamber? Meanwhile, Yellowstone had an eerie calm. Elk and bison frequented routes that were once busy with autos. Wolves left traces near the closed visitor centers. Rangers observed that geysers were exploding out of sync, with the subsurface shock disrupting their internal clocks. Without human noise, the park felt primal, as if it had been transported back to a wilder age. International experts quickly joined the initiative. Scientists from Iceland, Japan, and New Zealand, each with their own hazardous geothermal systems, arrived to investigate what some dubbed the most major hydrothermal blast in living memory. Satellites searched the Earth for minor elevation. Drones circled the vent, their thermal sensors detecting variations in steam density. Airborne spectrometers analyzed the plume and detected uncommon materials, indicating that the explosion had disturbed rock layers that are normally sealed far below. The data led to supercritical fluids, which are rare reservoirs in which water exists at such high temperatures and pressures that it acts like both a liquid and a gas. These reservoirs, when destabilized, have the potential to unleash incredible violence. The Yellowstone blast, while smaller than the prehistoric eruptions that devastated the park thousands of years ago, was nonetheless one of the most powerful in recorded history. The economic impact was immediate. Hotel reservations fell through, tours were canceled, and shops were empty. However, for scientists, the shutdown provided a unique opportunity. Yellowstone unaffected by humans. There are no automobiles or foot traffic, only raw geothermal activity exposing itself in its natural nature. What they saw confirmed a grim truth. Yellowstone is not a preserved environment, but rather a living, shifting system. Its beauty and peril are inextricably linked. The eruption was more than just a geological event. It was a view into the Earth's raw engine, a reminder that beneath our feet lay a force capable of remaking continents, and, perhaps, even human history. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. Also, please leave your views below and tell us what you think of Yellowstone's lockdown following the subsurface explosion. We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.